capital of the only native English-speaking country in the European Union. It is considered one of the most livable and richest places in the world. But this success is a very recent phenomenon. For a millennium, this rocky island was occupied by Vikings, then the English. Independence only came a century ago, and peace less than 25 years ago, after the end of a decades-long low-level war with its neighbor to the north. This is Dublin, Ireland. On a bay where the River Liffey flows into the sea lies Ireland's prime city, with a metropolitan population of 1.26 million, 4 times as large as Cork, the country's second largest metro area, 215 kilometers to the southwest. In 841, seafaring Vikings established a fortified base that grew into a substantial port and commercial center. In 1169, the Anglo-Normans invaded Ireland, and for the next 750 years, English kings and queens controlled the island. Dublin Castle, first founded in 1204, was the nerve center of the crown's power here. Under the Protestant English, the Catholic Irish were oppressed. Their land rights and ability to self-govern were stripped away. But influenced by the American and French revolutions, Ireland's push for independence began in earnest in the spring of 1798, when rebel leader Wolfe Tone led peasants against the highly trained redcoats in a prolonged campaign of battles throughout the island. Although it was ultimately snuffed out, for the next 125 years it inspired a series of agitations and uprisings against the British that extracted more and more rights for the Irish. Then, while the British were bogged down fighting the First World War, a group of Irish rebels declared independence in 1916, withstood 6 years of violent struggle with the Empire by riding a growing wave of nationalist support, and ultimately won the right to self-government free from British control. But the island's 6 northernmost counties, with a Protestant majority, chose to remain in the United Kingdom as a separate country called Northern Ireland. This was unacceptable to the Catholic majority in the south, who wanted the entire island to be a unified free republic. So a force calling themselves the Irish Republican Army launched a guerrilla campaign of armed resistance against the British, and the North focused on its capital, Belfast. This period, known as the Troubles, lasted for 3 decades, with violence spilling south into parts of the Republic and even across the sea to England. This constant tension consumed the entire island and played out on TVs around the world, creating a negative impression of Ireland that hamstrung its economy, especially its ability to attract foreign investment. Finally, everyone had had enough, and peace was achieved with the Good Friday Agreement. It's hard to overstate how important this moment was. Until very recently, into the late 90s, Dublin was relatively poor, but suddenly it had the security to build a decent economy, and after being pent up for hundreds of years, it took off like a rocket. Between 1995 and 2000, growth averaged an astounding 9.4%, and stayed strong at 5.9% per year until 2008. This dramatic rise meant Irish incomes surged past every other European country except tiny Luxembourg. A level of rapid, sustained success that is extremely rare for a mature country in modern times. Besides this peace dividend, other factors contribute to the Irish economic miracle. Its workers can communicate in English with Americans and have a time zone advantage that allows them to work mornings while their colleagues in the US are still asleep. Ireland also draws US firms away from the UK because of its decision to exit the EU in 2017, leaving Ireland as the only English-speaking country remaining in the bloc. But the biggest key to Dublin's turnaround may be its ridiculously low headline corporate tax rate that stood as of 2023 at 12.5%, compared to 29.9% in Germany, 25.8% in France and the Netherlands, and 25% in Spain and Turkey. For intellectual property-heavy industries like tech and pharmaceuticals, Irish accounting schemes slashed the rate to less than 4%. Although it is now phasing in slightly higher rates because of a pressure campaign from other countries who want a fair playing field. But for lawmakers in Dublin, transforming into one of the world's largest tax havens was a brilliant move at the end of the Troubles. US-controlled multinationals now make up 25% of the top 50 businesses in Ireland, including the EU headquarters of giants Pfizer, Microsoft, Google, and Apple. These foreigners pay 80% of Irish corporate tax and employ an eye-opening 25% of the nation's entire labor force, all of which supports very high living standards. For example, every Irish has access to low-cost public health care, and leaders from every major political party are united in undertaking an ambitious transition to a universal system, Sláinte care, that aims to provide even better, free care to every patient. Undergraduate university students pay just €3,000 a year, and when graduates of any level enter the workforce, there are plenty of jobs, with an unemployment rate below 5% for the last 2 years. The government achieves all of this comfortably within budget, with a surplus of $10.5 billion last year and a forecasted $8.5 billion this year. And now some leaders are wisely pushing for a robust rainy day fund in the event its corporate gravy train runs dry. Another big opportunity for growth on the horizon is wind power, which makes up 36% of Ireland's electricity generation. That's the second highest ratio in Europe. A new electricity interconnector with France is coming online in 2026, making Dubliners optimistic they can ramp up turbine installations to become big exporters of clean energy to the rest of the continent. It's a realistic goal, considering wind already makes up 1/3 of its electricity mix, with only a single offshore farm having been built to date in the waters along the blustery Irish coast. For older Dubliners who lived through the Troubles, finding themselves at the center of so many cutting-edge industries is a big, refreshing change. For a long time, the capital's largest employer was Guinness, brewer of the creamy stout. A culture revolving around the pub made sense for a people with a lot of sorrows to drown, especially for the many left behind through the years. In the century between 1840 and 1940, Ireland's population dropped by half. Much of this was due to the Great Famine in the middle of the 1800s, which killed over 1 million and caused an estimated 2 million more to emigrate, mostly across the Atlantic. Today, there are 31.5 million American residents who claim Irish descent, the third largest group in the US behind English and Germans. Dublin's success makes young people more likely to stay, and makes Ireland a destination for immigrants, who currently make up about 15% of the population. Most come from England, Northern Ireland, or EU countries like Poland. During my brief time in Dublin, its newfound vibrance was on full display. I met thriving young professionals and happy tourists from all over. The streets were exceptionally clean and filled with brand new transit buses, and its infrastructure was well designed and world class. Ireland's rich past is still on view everywhere, but so are signs that this capital city is hard at work building an even better future. Thanks for watching. Until next time, for TDC, I'm Bryce Plank.